You didn't lose yourself all at once. It happened one small yes at a time. And today, we trace it back. Welcome to Midlife Butterfly for high-achieving midlife women ready to stop self-abandoning and feel alive again. I am Kenna Siu, Identity and Embodiment Guide, and here we explore self-remembrance, emotional truth, nervous system healing, and what it really means to come home to yourself. In this episode, you will discover 1. The real reason people-pleasing feels impossible to stop is not a habit or a weakness. It's a nervous system strategy your body learned a long time ago to keep you safe. Once you understand why it started, something shifts. 2. The moment the slow fade begins. Most women can't pinpoint when they stop being themselves. Today, I'm going to help you see exactly how it happens, step by step, so you can finally name what's been quietly happening inside you. 3. What it actually takes to reclaim yourself. You'll walk away knowing the first real thing you can do. There is a particular kind of disappearing that happens so slowly, so quietly, that you don't even notice while it's happening. Until one day you may catch yourself in a conversation at a dinner table, or maybe with a colleague, or maybe you're even alone, and you realize you have no idea what you actually think about something, or what you want. Or even worse, when you stop having an opinion. And of course, this is why you probably think that this is actually an identity crisis. But this is actually what years of overgiving, of self-editing and approval seeking do quietly over time. It's a slow fade. I remember when I used to say yes to every social event I got invited. And you probably have experienced it too, with friends and family. That even when sometimes I didn't feel like going for different reasons. One of them that I say yes to was because, I didn't want to disappoint my friends or family because I wanted to feel loved and that I belong, right? Another thing that happens that we don't want to say no, it's because, the FOMO, the fear of missing out. Because what about if in that gathering something really important happened and I will miss it? Then 3, it's speaking my truth. I will think that it will get me in trouble or it will not be accepted. So saying that I was tired or I didn't feel like going, it will be seen as something wrong, for my family or either for the people who made the invitation. Can you resonate to any of this? So it's when we start saying those yeses, when we actually want to say no, that we start fading away. And the fade doesn't happen dramatically. It really happens in small, ordinary moments, if you think about it. This has a few layers. The first one is the edited self. It's when you stop sharing your real opinions because it's easier. It's much easier just to, follow the flow of others. And here you actually learn which version of you gets more, lovable or has more approval or it has less conflict. And that's what you lead with her every time because it's easier than being your true self. Layer number 2 is the shrinking. Yes, when you start getting smaller and smaller. Why? Because your preferences start to feel less important than keeping things smooth. You consider that whatever everyone else is thinking out there or saying out there is more important than your truth. So probably you start actually, not ordering what you really want in a restaurant because somebody else, is ordering for you. Or you agree with a plan at work or with the family, even when you actually had another idea. This feels like small things, but they are not small things. Okay? Then the following layer is the performance. Because at one point, keeping the peace stops being a choice and starts being automatic. You don't even dare to pause before saying yes to something, to someone. Because the performance that you are now doing, the person that you built in, these masks, these are the agreeable version with other people. So it's easier to be there. But what happens there is where actually the layer 4 comes. It's the forgetting. And this is the part that nobody talks about. But because after years of this, or decades maybe by now, you genuinely can remember what you like, what brings you joy, what you actually think, what you actually want. Because you have been outsourcing those answers to other people's comfort for so long, that your own signals have gone quiet. You've forgotten who you are because you're always at the expectations of others. Let me tell you, this fate is not a failure, of a character. It's a sign that you've been working very, very hard for a very long, long time to be accepted, to be loved, to be safe. That's deeply human. The thing is, it also has a cost. Here is what makes people pleasing so hard to just stop. Because again, it's not failure and it's not a bad habit that you just picked up. It is actually a protective strategy that your nervous system has developed over a very early age to keep you emotionally safe. When you were growing up, you were learning that conflict was dangerous or that love felt conditioned or that keeping others happy kept you safe. So your brain actually wired these people pleasing as a survival response. So it's not a weakness, it's adapting to feel safe. So what happens when you try to actually release that people pleaser? What happens is that your nervous system gets triggered because it doesn't experience that as freedom. It experiences as a threat. So it's when you actually feel that your heart races, that you spiral into guilt and you want to over-explain, and then you go back and apologize. But the truth here, that's what I want you to be very compassionate about yourself. is that your body is doing exactly what it learned to do. You can't think your way out of a pattern that lives in your nervous system. You have to feel your way through it. Yes, you gotta feel it. So I invite you to put one of your hands in your belly, the other one in your chest. Take a deep breath. Exhale. And notice your heartbeat. Notice your belly going up and down. If I say the word no to you right now, is there tightness? Are you holding your breath? Do you feel like some fear in your chest? Because that sensation that you are feeling now, that's the place where your healing begins. When you feel it. Not in your head, in there, in your body, right there. Because probably you might feel very, very fucking exhausted for being a people pleasing for such a long time. And it makes a lot of sense because you know what's the cost of all of that? Have you ever noticed what the cost of your people pleasing? You have been erased. You probably feel erased, that you don't exist, that you don't matter to others. Why? Because you quiet your voice. Not just to avoid any conflict, but sometimes you quiet your voice when there is a conversation and you feel like speaking your truth. You quiet your voice when you want to take a decision. Because you stop trusting that your perspective is worth offering. What it has cost you to? Your desire. Because when you spend years and years prioritizing what others want, you lose access to what you want. And then you feel empty. And you don't know why? You quiet your desires. That's so fucking painful. And as a consequence, of course, you lose self-trust. Because every time that you're overriding your own instinct to keep someone else comfortable, you are sending yourself a message. You are telling to yourself, my inner knowing doesn't matter. What happens over time is that you actually stop listening to yourself entirely. So no wonder why you feel disconnected to yourself, from your intuition, from your soul, from God or source. And this is the reason why midlife can feel like such a crisis for women who've been high achievers. Because, of course, in the outside, everything looks so fine to you. But from the inside, is there someone there? No, there's nobody home. The slow fade has been happening for decades. And midlife, right now where you are, is often the first moment life gets quiet enough to notice. And that's probably the reason why you are here now. I remember when I was a kid, I was very expressive and outgoing. And I used to have a lot of friends. Until one day a situation happened in my early teens that I felt rejected big time. And this was related to my physical appearance. So grateful that as humans we evolve. Because at that time, I was wearing big glasses and braces. And I was so skinny that I didn't have boobs yet. So imagine that picture. And that situation created kind of like a shell around me. I kind of then tend to hide myself because I was afraid to be rejected again. So this kind of shell, it actually caused me sometimes or many times to hide, to hide. That's actually what it happens. And of course, it also brought me more awareness of how I needed to behave and how I needed to express myself, of course, then to feel safe and to please others. And this happened for decades and decades. I used to hide big time. And with that, at the same time, with that hiding came the pleasing of others instead of pleasing myself. And that was a huge, huge cost that I needed to pay. And I want to tell you that, yeah, at one point, I thought that midlife was about reinvention. But I think it's more about a return. Because this thing that we may call a crisis, a calling, or an awakening that you're probably feeling is actually your true self calling you back. She hasn't gone anywhere. She's been waiting. She's claiming her return. That's what is happening. So start noticing. Have that awareness in your mind and in your body. How does that impulse feel? You know, when you're trying to comply before you actually do, sometimes there's like a mini second where it could be this kind of awareness. And while having this awareness, it's actually where everything starts. And from there, you get to choose something different. Right? And then get curious about your automatic yeses. You know, so sometimes somebody asks you something and you just say yes without even thinking. Ask yourself afterwards, did I actually want that? Or what would I have said if I weren't afraid? When you question this, it's how you're gonna learn to hear yourself again. Because that voice is there. And that voice, what happens now, it's very quiet. You haven't given her a chance for such a long time. That now is, is the inner critic, is the ego that wants to protect you, the one who has those answers. And that's why it's important to then sink in with your body. Because your body, many times, most of the time, is the one who has the answer. Is the one who feels that impulse. So have that awareness. Sync with that awareness so you can actually sink in with your body and take a pause. Feel inward for half of a second. and check with your body, what do you want? Even sometimes if you're not gonna follow it, just notice it. That means that you are restoring the signal. The more you practice, the better you're gonna get at it. And another thing, it's give yourself permission to disappoint people while your nervous system learns. Why am I saying this? Because guilt is gonna pop up. Oh yeah, it will be there. It will be there, and then you're gonna have that urge to fix it, to over-explain or take it back. But I want you to understand that in this case, guilt is not a sign that you actually did something wrong. It's a sign that your nervous system is recalibrating. So please remember this. Guilt in this context, it means that your nervous system is recalibrating. So that's why the more you practice, the more your nervous system is going to get at ease with the new you, or all you, better said, that is coming back. That is coming back. Because before, when I ask you, and when you put your hand in your chest, when you can feel your own heartbeat, notice that this is you. You are right here. She is right here. And she hasn't gone anywhere. Anywhere. You have spent a long time making sure everyone else is okay. And at the same time, there's been a version of you who has been waiting, patient, quiet, a little tired of waiting. Waiting for you to turn the same care toward yourself. You just have to start noticing, start listening, start trusting that what you feel and want and need is worth paying attention to. It's time to come back inward. You've been living outward. It's time to stop. The slow fade was never who you are. It's just what you learned. And the cool part is that what you have learned, it can be unlearned. This is not about starting over. You are here now, after a few decades. You're here in midlife. So to restart your life in a new, fucking cool, beautiful way that you deserve, that you are worth for it. This is your invitation to come home to yourself. This is what we covered in this episode. People pleasing doesn't announce itself. It creeps in through the everyday moments. The opinion you swallowed to keep the peace. The yes you gave when everything in you wanted to say no. The version of yourself you quietly shelved because it was easier than explaining who you actually are. In this episode, we talk about how the slow fade happens. Not through the one big loss, but through thousands of tiny ones. Each small self-betrayal leaves a deposit. Over years, those deposits build a life that fits everyone else perfectly and feels like someone else's altogether. We also look at why this is so hard to stop, because people-pleasing isn't just a pattern. It's protection. Your nervous system learned that keeping others happy kept you safe. That's intelligence, not weakness. and it needs to be met with compassion, not criticism. The path back doesn't start with a personality overhaul. It starts with noticing, with pausing before the automatic yes, with asking, even just once today, why do I actually want now? That question alone is a threat back to yourself. You haven't lost who you are. She's been quietly waiting, and this is how you begin finding your way home. If this episode spoke something to you deep inside in you, please share it. Share it with other one, because I know a lot of women, we struggle with people pleasing. It is time to come home to ourselves. It is time to start pleasing yourself first. So share this episode. And before you go, sit with this one question. I don't want you to answer it with your head, okay? But with your body. Where in your life have you been slowly fading? And what small, true part of yourself has been waiting quietly for you to come back? Thank you for listening, and much love to you as usual. Take care.